So the first thing is we will need to install a tool that helps us download and install libraries for PHP. And the tool is called Composer. I'll take you guys there. It's actually that, but you know what, before we get to, so don't do anything here yet, okay? Just wait. So before we download and install the tool, let's talk about why and what does it do. So we have a website. Okay, actually, hold on, let's go back. You guys use NuGet, right? In C#, in .NET, you guys were using NuGet, right? Which allows you to search for different libraries, right? And then install them, right? Update them and so on. Well, this is a very similar idea. And by the way, other languages, other platforms also have that. In JavaScript, we have NPM. There you go. Right, which is another package manager or software library manager, right? And in PHP, we have packages. So actually, let's start with this one. Will be the easiest to explain. So packages. So what this is, it's a web interface to a database of libraries registered with this, well, search system, really. Let's try a few. Let's do something like Twig. Let's start with an easy one. Twig, TWAG. That's the library I told you we'll be using, and we will be using it. So let's take a look at this one, right? I click here. Oh, by the way, before we do that, look at the results. It says downloaded 133 million times. So not very popular, but we'll use it anyway. I'm of course kidding, right? 130 million downloads, that's a lot. Right, so it's a templating language from PHP. Now, what are we paying attention here to when we're choosing a library? There's a few things. One is, yes, the number of installation, absolutely. If it's high, that's pretty good. Actually, that's great. That usually means that it's active, that's well maintained, and so on. All right. But sometimes the number of installs is not that high, and we have to dig a little further to assess whether this is a good idea or not. So another thing is, you check when was the last version released. So this one, for example, version 3.3.0 was in 2 days ago, was released 2 days ago. So you can tell this one's really well maintained and it's current and so on, right? Next thing we can look at is there is source repository here and source and homepage, which is often the same thing. In this case, it's not. That's the link to the homepage. And this is the source code. So another thing I could do in the source code, I could look at the commits. I can say, well, are they actually doing something or not? So look, February 8th, 6th, 5th, 4th, 2nd. Okay, looks like they're actually working on it. So that's a good sign. Not every library will have this much activity. This one is a major library. This is the most popular PHP templating library in the world. It's the absolute #1, so obviously it will be maintained really well. Okay, all right, so that's Twig, and we can do other things. So we're going to look at the library we'll be using. It's called PHP Slim, or just Slim. You can just put Slim there, that will work as well. We'll see how does this stack up. So 15 million downloads, yeah, we're good, right? That's pretty popular. It's not thousands, it's millions, so we're okay here. Is it being maintained? Yeah, I can tell you it is, right? Last release, December last year. I would say anything within last year to 15 months, you're probably okay, because some libraries, there are libraries that there's just not that much to change over time. They don't require that much maintenance. So if it's within 1 year, you're okay. If it's updated once a year, it's a stable library, you're okay. Now this one's being actually actively developed. They have the branch 4, which started, let's just check this one. It started, well, over a year ago, right? That was the 4.0. We'll see if we're going to use that, because there is, so when I started teaching that one long time ago, we were using branch 2.6 or 2, right? That was a while ago. And then with some of the previous groups, we tried to use version 4. It just, I mean, it works, but the documentation just wasn't as good as for version 3. That was the issue. It wasn't the functionality so much as just the amount of discussion about it and documentation. For version 3, there's just more of it. So we're actually using version 3. So what I'm thinking, we might still, let's see, version 3, how's it maintained? Okay, so they did last update a year ago, slightly over a year ago. Okay, we'll see. We'll see. We might. I mean, what's the difference here? I'll tell you, there was a big difference. This is a micro framework, which we're going to talk about. There was a big difference between 2.6 and 3. The difference between 3 and 4 isn't that much, so we're probably going to go with 3. Now, what is this, by the way? It's a PHP micro framework, right? And one of the things it does, so there's a lot of micro frameworks, by the way, right? You have Lumen, Flight, here's a Slim. Actually, there was Slim right there, number 4, right here on Google, right? Silex and plenty of others, right? There's a lot of micro frameworks. So we're not gonna do all of them, there's no need, but we'll just do one, which is PHP Slim. And then if you ever end up using a different micro framework, no problem, because I mean, if you know one, you can very easily learn them all. I used to teach Symfony actually, but that's a full framework. I don't know why they said it's a micro framework. It is not. It's a full framework. It's pretty heavy. The performance was okay-ish. So yeah. All right, so back here, so that was Slim. Right, so to be able to install those libraries, and there's a few more, we're also going to use, so we had Twig, we're going to use something called MicroDB, written like this, M-E-E, MicroDB. Sergey Talkov is the author. Right, let's see about this one. So it's well maintained. This one is nice. So this is a very nice library, not as well known, has only 100,000 installations. I think it deserves more. It's pretty awesome. It allows us to automatically handle errors when executing SQL queries. It has a very nice, I would say, concise way of using SQL. Actually, the way I discovered this one, I was funny. So I was that was one of my previous businesses, probably 8 years ago, something like that. A long time ago, 7 years ago. It was a long time ago. And I was kind of getting frustrated with running all those SQL queries over. I was using a micro framework. Yes, I was already using, I think, PHP Slim or something similar. But I was getting frustrated. Every time I run the query, I have to do an if, and then I have to escape all the values, and that was just getting kind of repetitive. So I started writing my own library to avoid that. And then I remember one of my students, she came to, she says, "Hey, I just found this library. You might like it because it kind of, I mean, they say they actually are doing the things that you're working on." I'm like, "Really? Okay, let me see." And it turns out that they actually, well, that library actually does, well, exactly all the things I wanted my library to do, right? So for example, here, look at this. This is a query. This is a query. Let's just go here. Select, right? So select from accounts where user and password. Now, aside from the fact that we don't really want to be matching a password this way, which is just a bad idea, but technically it's a valid query. Look at this. They're just putting percentage s and then parameters to the query. So this is like a sprintf pretty much. It's like sprintf married MySQLi execute query, right? And what's happening here is that those values will be inserted in here, like as well they should, and escaped automatically. That's one thing, and it's a big thing. Second, well, the query will be executed. And if there are any errors, you see there's no error handling here. It's not a mistake. Actually, there is a global error handler, because you see, here's the thing. In PHP scripts, whenever there is a problem, with SQL query, essentially the only thing you do, you just display an error message to the user, you're done, that's it. There's no recovery really. I mean, if the SQL query fails, the whole page generally fails, right? I mean, if you want to allow for some failures and not always fail the whole page, you could do that too, but the default behavior is SQL query should never fail. If it did, there's a problem. We can't let the user operate the page. That's it, right? So there actually is, in that line over here, already embedded error handling, which we'll actually take a look at today and tomorrow, right? And then when I fetch the result, you guys remember we had to, what was it, do the while thingy, right? Well, this one is actually even nicer because what they do, they give us an array of associative arrays. So this is an actually array of rows. Again, I hate the naming here. Here they have results. Here they have result. Please don't do that, because just one letter difference between one and multiple. Please don't do that. Okay. But regardless, right, this is the result is an array of associative arrays. So we just do a for each loop and we can process it. So really cool stuff. And it will, you see, this is the whole thing. So it simplifies your code by about, well, it makes about 3 times smaller. So I would say about 30% of the original, right? Because normally you would have to write at least what, 10, 12 lines to handle this, right? Here you get 3. Okay. Also, there's some other nice things you can, for example, query just the first row. You guys remember when we were fetching, what were we doing? Oh yeah, we're doing login and we're checking, does the user exist? And then matching the password, right? Well, this is it. You're just saying, listen, here's a query, that's the username to be inserted here and escaped, right? So make sure that there's no SQL injection possible, handle errors if there are any, and then give me the first row that was fetched from the query or a null. One of the two things will happen. The user here will either be a null or it will be an associative array of that one record, one of the two, right? And so on. So there's some really nice things here. And I think that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, if you want to use things like, you know, transactions, I mean, there are transactions with standard MySQLi, of course, as well, sure, but they wrap them in a method here. So you can start a transaction, commit or rollback. If you're using multiple connections to databases, because here they have a global. In PHP, double dot, that's static. If you're seeing double dot being used, that means you're calling a static method or accessing a static field. So these are not calls, these are calls to static methods, okay? Which means that you're using a single database for the entire script. But if you ever needed to use multiple database connections, you could do that. You can actually instantiate a connection. That's pretty much what it is. It's a connection to the database. And then you can have multiple objects, right, connecting to different databases and operate on them. That's extremely rare, but technically possible, right? And that's pretty much it for MicroDB, right? So I already mentioned templates, Twig, MicroDB as the basis, right? We also will have Monolog for logging, and we didn't look at Twig yet. I know, not quite. Oh yeah, actually, let's go through here. So Monolog. There we go. Sends your logs to files, sockets, inboxes, databases, various web services. Yeah. So Monolog has a lot of backends, meaning it receives log messages from your system, and then you can configure it to, you know, send it to, write it to a file, write it to a database. If there is something happening serious, send an email, send a text message. I remember I had a student once who actually was playing with it, and he says, yeah, you know what I did? When this terrible event happens, I get a text message. Because what he was doing, he wrote an API for a mobile application, and when something happened with the API, then he would actually get a text message. Like, okay, cool, using Monolog. This one's very well maintained too. We've got, look at this, 270 million downloads, so that's pretty good, right? Maintained currently. But we won't be using any advanced backends here unless you want to. We'll be just writing things to a file. Why do we need it? Because because we do not want to tell the user what the problem was. We don't, right? Usually when there's a problem, the user will be shown nice page saying we're sorry, the dog ate our homework, right? And we couldn't display the page, and we're very sorry. Our team of dog walkers is already working on training the dog better, right? Or whatever the story is. But so that's what's happening on the front end. On the back end, though, you're going to write all the details to a log file. So if it was an SQL query that failed, you write the SQL query into the log. You write the error message into the log. You write maybe parameters that caused the problem, right, that were given to the script into the log, right? You write that information and you mark it as error, right? Why? Because then as a developer, as a somebody who's developing and maintaining the software, you're going to go to the log, you're going to look for those things, right? And you're going to fix those problems if there are problems to fix. Because maybe it isn't, maybe somebody was attacking your website and that error was correct because somebody was really doing something that they shouldn't, and your script failed because it should have. Possible, right? But errors should not happen in a normal course of using a website. Okay, so that's that pretty much. So now let's go to the composer. Who's on Macintosh?
Me.
Me.
So there's two people. All right, so guys, so let's do Macintosh first. For a Mac, what you need to do is you need to scroll down until you find the latest stable, this thing. Okay. So there's composer stable phar, PHAR, this one. You download it, and then you put it. Now you can put it actually anywhere. You just need to never delete it. So if you want to put it into documents, you could do that. You could, if you want to leave it in downloads, you could do that. What you could also do, you could put it into. That's what some people do. It's not a bad idea. You could put it into CZAMP or whatever location of XAMPP is, htdocs, IPv23. You could also put it in here. You choose. Wherever you put it, you will not be moving it anywhere else until you're done with this course. Okay, so you pick the location. It doesn't matter where you put it. It doesn't have to be any specific location. You just need to not delete it. Okay, clear? Clear. All right, everybody else. I'm assuming Windows. Download and run Composer setup. There are no questions, no tricky questions there. I actually have to do this as well. I have a fresh installation of Windows here, so. Oh, they didn't ask for this. I'm gonna go for install for all users. Why not? Yeah, let's just do install for all users. Yes. And no developer mode. No, do not do that. No. Do not select developer mode. Next. Right, so what happens here is that they should have found PHP, path to PHP, which will be C, XAMPP, PHP, PHP, exe. That's your interpreter. I'm just thinking about the add this PHP to your path. That's a good question. Okay, so I just resumed recording. So we did say to add PHP to path. That was the selection. All right, next, and then finish. Yeah, we're good. Okay, so close your VS Code if it is running and then start it up again. Now we have to do some setup here. Okay, so now in VS Code, we're going to open a new folder. Right, please do that with me. And now I know here we were viewing two folders at once, day one, day two, right? but we can't do that when we're using Composer. It has to be done differently. So we have to do File, Open Folder. And in IPD23 here, you're going to create a new folder, call it, let's do day, we're on day 4, right? Day 4, Slim first, right? And then you're going to select this one, and only that folder will be open in VS Code. You see nothing else. That's the only one we've got. All right, good. So now we're going to need a plugin for Composer. There we go. So there is a PHP Composer. Let's see, how's this one? 133,000 installs. Rating is good, 5 on 5, 3 ratings, that's not too many. Yeah, seems okay. Composer Companion. So here's another one. This one has 2,000. This one has 130,000. So I'm going for this one. You see, 133. This one has 2,000. So it doesn't mean it's bad, but I would have to check how old is the version and so on. Changelog is usually helpful there. Okay, this one seems to be actually maintained. So this one is pretty new. Maybe that's why it doesn't have too many users. Yeah, it's okay. We can, if we find an extension that doesn't work too well for us, we can always, change it to a different one, uninstall and install a different one. Let's go with this one for now. Let's see how that works out. So click on install here for Composer 071. So this extension doesn't actually have Composer. It just helps us to use it. All right, and then here's what we need to do. We need to add to our configuration, right? We need to add this Composer executable path. Now to do that, let's try how that works. So we'll go to Preferences, Settings, and let's see if we can find Composer. Probably not. Oh, we do. Okay, that's nice. Excellent. All right, so go to Settings. So we did Edit, excuse me, no, File, Preferences, Settings. Right, and then we'll add executable path. Yeah. So we'll have to here, we have to put the path to Composer. Okay, look at this. So there's actually, okay, so what's the path to the Composer? Well, that depends. So where did you put it? We'll have to find it. So if you install it on Linux or on Mac, then you know what the path is. You have to type the path here correctly, just like they show us here in this example, right? So on the Mac or Linux, that's going to look like this. And it's going to end with composer.phar. So it's not going to be composer, but composer far. There's going to be an extension there. Now on Windows, we have to find it. So usually it's in program data. So let's actually check that. So do this with me. Go to C or wherever your XAMPP is. Excuse me. No, actually, this is going to be C always. And then program data. Now, depending on your settings, you may not see it because this one is actually a hidden folder. Let me actually check. Composer setup bin. There you go. So the way to overcome it, if you don't see it, you may need to type manually C : program data up there and press enter to get in. If your settings of Windows Explorer are such that it doesn't show hidden directories. Okay. All right. So now you go into program data, composer setup bin. Bin folder is usually for executables. That's how we know. On Unix systems, bin means executables. And then here we'll do, which one do they say to use? They say to use the batch one. Okay, fine. So we're going to use the batch. So what you want to do, you want to copy. So again, you want to copy here once you get into bin, you want to copy the location, paste it here, and then add composer.bat, BAT at the end. I'm not convinced that the bat is the right one. We'll see if it works. Great. If it doesn't, we'll fix it. Now there's a problem with the backslashes. You see on Windows, we need to double up the backslashes, all of them, right? So because there is no at strings in JSON. Okay, so you need to double up the backslashes. It should look like this. Save it. And that should be.
Excuse me, I don't have this this page in settings JSON.
Yeah, show me your screen. Let's see it.
Okay.
So now let's try and use it. So we'll go to. Let's do new terminal and type composer. There we go. All right, so we'll do this. Go terminal, new terminal. Just do it once. A terminal will appear at the bottom, and then you just type composer in it. It's a command line. It's something that many of you have not used yet, right? Do you ever use this CMD? Well, it's the same thing, right? It's a command line. So those of you who know Mac or Linux, definitely you use command line. On Windows, it's not as common. It didn't used to be, but now with all the tools, there's a lot of tools these days even in .NET and all other environments that actually are imported from Unix. And on Unix system, we actually use command line quite a lot. So yeah. All right, so now, did you get anybody got an error message? You should get an output kind of like this with information about how to use Composer. Anybody got an error message, something that says command not found?
Yes, I have.
For me also, it doesn't work.
Artem, share your screen. Let's see it. So now that we have Composer working, let's actually use it. So the first thing we want to do is we want to initialize the settings of the Composer for the current project. Now the settings for the project, we can actually close those. We don't need those anymore. So right now we have an empty directory, empty folder. So the main and pretty much the only config file for Composer, not for Visual Studio Code, for Composer, is called composer.json, and it contains a list of libraries that we want and their version. So let's just do composer init. Can I make this bigger? Nope, I don't think I can. Yeah, it doesn't let me make the font bigger. So a composer init. And guys, you're just going to press enter on all the questions. We're not changing anything here. We have to say N actually, I think here. Yeah, author, no author. That's it. Okay. And what it does, it creates a file that looks like this. That's it. All those questions just to create a file like this. I know, right? Couldn't we just copy paste? Actually, yes, we could. We could have just copy pasted that. That's true. It would have been exactly the same effect. All right, so what we're gonna do is we will install a bunch of libraries, and the way you do that, you add the library actually description in here inside of the require. But we're gonna do this from the command line. We're going to use our not composer, but rather the packages for it. Okay, so go back to packages. So let's install those things in order. First things first, Slim. This is the basis for everything else. So go to Slim. Right, we need this one, Slim. And we're going to.
Can you send a link for this?
Excuse me. Oh, yeah, I can send the link, sure. Or you can just type Slim in packages and it will be the first result. So Slim is the micro framework we'll be using is the basis for everything else. It's like the glue that holds everything else together. So we're definitely going to need it. And we're going to go with version 3. As I said, I'm not convinced version 4 is usable and well documented just yet. But if you want to use version 4 for your projects, you're very much welcome to. I'll be very happy to hear how it goes. Okay. There's not that much of a difference between 3 and 4 really. But if you want, as I said, if you want to use 4 for your projects, you can. So we're going to go with the last stable version of branch 3, which is 3.12.3, this one, right? So what we want to do is we want to tell Composer to add Slim to the list of libraries used, but in a specific version. So let me just check that. So Slim, if I do Composer require Slim, Slim version, I said what, 3.12.3, yeah, 3.12.3, there you go. Okay, so I'm gonna pause here because actually that's the whole process now. So I run Composer require, I said search for Slim, I said this is the one I want, so I put a 0 in here, and then I said which version do I want? I want version 3.12.3, which is the latest from the 3 branch. Okay, enter, and that's it, and enter again. There you go. See what it did? It did actually 2 things. One, it added this line. Again, we could have just copy pasted this line up there, and then it ran Composer update. This is the command it run, Composer update. What Composer update does, it uninstalls or installs libraries that are listed here. Where does it put them? Look at this. There is a new thing. There is a vendor directory right there. You see this? There's a vendor directory. Yeah, that's where all the libraries will go. So there's a Slim in there, Slim, and there is a Slim, right? Slim. Okay, let's continue. So we got a few more. Let's do another Composer require. Let's do MicroDB. Right.
Sorry, how do I download it?
It already did download itself if you completed the operation. Do you see vendor in your folder, in your project folder? Tom, do you see vendor?
No.
No, okay. So share your screen, let's see it. All right, so the next one we want is we're gonna do MicroDB. Right, so we're gonna say Composer require, then I said search for MicroDB, and package 0 happens to be the one I want, so I'll say 0. And okay, now the version, hold on, that's a good question. Let me just check this one here, 2.31. You know what, we're just gonna go with the latest stable. So we could do, yeah, we're just gonna press enter here. Or you know what we can do? We can say, give me branch 2.3. Yeah, you see the little hat there? It says 2.3 anything. That's what it means. Anything that begins with 2.3 essentially, right? Okay, good. Enter. Let's see how that works out. See in here, it's hat 2.3, and it ended up installing 2.3.1. Right, which is what we wanted. So we're okay here. And then next one, yeah, let's keep going. So the next one is twig. Twig, and 0 is twig. That's the one we want, the twig. So every name of the package actually is made up of 2 items. One is the major one is the minor one. Right, so the major one is usually the name of the project or the person who created it, and the minor one is the actual library name. So this is project twig, main library twig, right? All right, so 0 is the one I want. And the version to use, hold on a second. So last time we used version 2, I remember there was some compatibility issues with version 3. Guys, we're going to go with version 2 again, okay? I remember when we were uploading our projects to the hosting solution, there were some issues with version 3. Now, again, you can experiment. When you're doing your project, you can go version 3 of Twig. It makes no practical difference. The performance for us is the same. The features, what we're using, are exactly the same. There's no discernible difference that we were able to find between version 2 and 3 for what we're doing. So it's not going to limit you in any way. Okay, so let's just see. Version 2 was 2.14. Okay, was the latest one. That's okay. So let's go with this one. So we'll say hat 2.14. hat 2.14 and enter. So what it should add is, there you go, twig hat 2.14 up there. See how many libraries is actually downloading? It's quite a few. Like if I look at vendor here, this thing keeps growing. See all of those? Yeah, it's quite a few. All right, let's continue. We're almost there. Two more actually. So require again monologue.
Excuse me, Gregory.
Yes, go ahead.
Today is my day. Can I share my screen?
Okay, let's continue here. So we've got 3 of them, right? Let's get the 4th one. So we said monologue, right? So search for package monologue, and we need the first one. So 0 monologue is the one we want. And version, I'm just going to check. Last time we went with 2.1, so probably branch 2. Yeah, 2.2 is probably okay. We can always downgrade it. It's very easy to downgrade or upgrade packages. It takes just a few seconds. If we want to change our minds to and change the version, it's very easy to do. Yeah, we'll go 2.2. So we'll say version hat 2.2 and enter. Okay, we're good. And then the last one is Slim Twig View, which is this one. And what is that? It belongs to Slim, and it's the glue between PHP Slim micro framework and Twig. It helps us use Twig in a more concise manner. It makes, so to speak, it's metaphorical a little bit, but it makes Slim aware of Twig. It makes it easier to connect the two. Okay, so we're going to use version 3.2. So Vladimir, you're going to skip this one because you already have it, right? So we're going to run this again, right? Composer require, and we'll say Slim Twig, the 2 words, right? And you should have Slim Twig View, hopefully as the first one. So 0, right? So 0. And version we wanted was, as I said, was 3.2. Yeah, anything 3.2 is, hold on. Just a moment.
You said 2.5.
I said 2.5 indeed. Hold on. Because what I'm thinking is, hold on, because we're using, there we go. This is why. Because we're using Slim Framework 3, not 4. Right? And Slim Framework, so the Glue 3.0 version 3 is for Slim Framework 4. Okay, that's confusing, I know. So because the numbers don't match. So the Twig View version 3 is for Framework 4, right? But version 2.5, for example, is for Slim Framework 3. Yeah, they are inconsistent, unfortunately. Okay, so we're going to need, now how do I know that? Because we already did that before with other groups. So we're going to need version 2.5 something, yeah. So we're going to say version hat 2.5. Enter.
I installed it 2.2, it's fine.
You have which one?
We installed 2.2.
You installed 2.2? Yeah, we'll fix it.
Okay.
Just hang in there. All right. So that's it. We got them. And Vladimir, so what you need to do to change it It's really simple. Actually, can you show us your screen? Because everybody will see how to, let's say we changed our minds. So Vladimir says, you know what, I don't want a version 2.2, I want 2.5. So go to Composer.json, change it.
He
So
has
up there,
2.5.
so up there, no, hold on, you do have 2.5, you're okay. Slim twig view, you do have 2.5.
Okay, I just looked to the monologue, sorry.
But the monologue is 2.2. So you're okay, you got the same version that we all do, yeah.
Sorry.
So we're okay. Okay, but if you did change your mind, it's really easy. So let's say if I said, hey, you know what, I want twig view 2.2, just for the sake of argument, right? What I do, I change it here, I save the file, and all I have to do is just to do composer update. And what it will, okay, that's weird. Hang in there, composer. Stop. That's weird. That should have worked. So now we're going to create our first, the first project in PHP Slim, right? And the way to do that is, well, we'll have to create a PHP file. So guys, in here, click on, or we can click on any of the composer files, and let's create a new file. Let's create a new file. Let's call it index.php. Now, the important thing is, do not create index.php inside of vendor, because if you click on vendor and you create a new file, it will be created inside here. That's a bad idea. We do not modify anything inside of vendor. Vendor is managed by Composer. We do not add, delete, or modify any files in there. Okay, why not? Well, because vendor could actually be, let's just try this now, completely deleted. Look, I'm gonna delete vendor, the whole thing. Okay, so I just deleted this. You see, it's gone, right? But I kept Composer.json, right? And then what I'll do is I'll do composer install. We should count the seconds. So 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15, 20 seconds. There you go. I have them all back. See, the whole vendor was recreated. See, it's all back. See, with Composer, you can delete vendor and then you can bring it back. That's why in some people choose, some larger projects, what they choose is, for example, not to store vendor in their Git repository. Because for an ongoing project, for a long project, right, the versions of libraries will be changing. So you're going to be adding, removing, and so on. Right? So it doesn't make sense to track in your own Git repository to track changes to other people's libraries. We don't want to do that. Now, for the purpose of the projects that you guys will be starting this week, on Friday, I recommend that you do store vendor in your Git repository, because you're just going to grab one set of libraries and you're going to continue using it. So there won't be ongoing changes. So it doesn't make any difference, and it makes it easier for you. Okay, but in a long duration project, we generally do not store vendor inside of our Git repository. We store everything else, but not the vendor. We recreate it when we need to. All right, next. All right, so we're back here. So now we got the index.php. Now, one of the things you need to know about frameworks, pretty much all of them do certain things. One of them is front controller. What is that? That means that all the requests to all the pages of an application are going to be routed through this one PHP page. You are actually going to be forbidden from creating any other PHP files until I say otherwise. So there will be no login PHP, no register PHP, no page add or whatever PHP, none of those. No other PHP files. All the URLs that your application will be handling will be routed through this index.php. So let's get started. So the top is, of course, going to be opening the PHP. Guys, you're going to put that at the very top, nothing in front of it. Do not put any spaces in front of it. No, empty lines, nothing. This has to be the very first thing in there. And then we're going to tell PHP about all the libraries that are inside of the vendor folder. And to do that, we're going to do require once vendor slash autoload PHP. See this one. What this line does, it tells PHP that, well, actually tells PHP to load this file, the autoload PHP. Inside of it, there is code that will teach PHP which libraries are. In other words, it will allow dynamic on-demand loading of classes. See, here's the thing. Inside of vendor branch right now, I could actually check it. Let's check how much stuff do I have in there. So if I go here to Slimferris, go to vendor, go to properties, let's just check it. I got, okay, so it's not too bad actually. I only have 800 files there. So not terrible yet. But imagine if I had to load 800 files for every page that I'm rendering. In other words, every time user accesses any of the pages of my system, right, I have to load 800 files of PHP code. That's kind of excessive. You can imagine the performance would probably not be very good. Now, the good news is that most of the time, we do not use all the functionalities of all the libraries that are there in the vendor. We use parts of it, right? We use only, some percentage of it, whatever it is, 10%, 20%, 5%, whatever it is. So what PHP will do for us, it will load those classes on demand when we need them. So for example, right now, my code is not using Twig. Twig will not be loaded at all. If I do use Twig, it will only load those classes of Twig that are necessary to do what I ask it to do, right? So out of this 800 files, I only will load a portion of it. And by the way, this is only 800 files. If we installed Symfony, PHP Symfony, that wouldn't be 800 files. That'd be more like 2,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 files. I know, crazy, right? But yeah, that's why we're not doing PHP Symfony. Okay, good. So this is what this enables, essentially is load on demand. By the way, it's the same thing that Java does, right? Java library has something around, what was it, 15,000 classes, something like that. It's a lot. And we're talking about probably hundreds of thousands of methods. So when you're running, your program, you're not loading the whole library. I mean, yes, it's there, it's available, but you're not loading all the classes because that would take a really long time, use up lots of memory. It will be completely useless. Java will load those classes that are required at the moment to run your program. It will load them on demand. So as you start using, more and more classes in your program, right, more classes will be loaded from the library. It's the same thing that PHP did. They actually completely copied this mechanism from Java about a decade ago. They said, hey, it's a great mechanism, loading classes on demand. Let's do the same thing. That's what they're doing here. And the code inside of autoload PHP will do it. And we don't have to go into the details how it's done. Just know that it is. Okay. All right. Next, we need to we're going to start with just using PHP Slim application. So the place to go is, well, I'm just going to close all those because we won't need them for now anyway. So what we want is we want to go to PHP Slim, right? And then you see there's documentation for version 3 and for version 4. There's 2 of them. So which one we're going to be using? You already know we're going for version 3. That's the one we have. And as I said, the main reason is that we just find that there is more discussion, examples about version 3 than there was in version 4. Maybe, it's changing. But it's not much of a difference between the versions. There is not, I haven't seen any advantage of using version 4 over version 3. Version 2 versus later ones, yes, there was difference. There was differences. All right, so now let's do it. So what we're going to do is so hold on, let's make sure everybody's on the same page, literally on the same web page. So go here. And what we're going to do is we're going to, well, essentially copy, no, not the whole thing because we're the open PHP, but we'll copy this chunk. What I selected. So everything except the opening PHP. We're going to copy, so Control-C, right, and paste it here. And that's it. Save the file. Save the file. And now we're going to test it. Now, what does it do? Well, it instantiates here an object. So this is what, that's the namespace. You guys remember packages, namespaces? Yeah, that's what it is. So namespace Slim class app is instantiated here. And as a parameter to the constructor, it receives an associative array here, that's the array, with information about some settings. We'll have more here. There's just one. Actually, you know, I do want to add one more. Let's add. I'm going to paste it in the chat. Display error details set to true. Yeah, because if there are problems, I want to see them. See, we've been doing this stuff for long enough to know that, yeah, we do want to see the errors. Okay, good, good. All right, now let's look at this. So here we're instantiating the application. And then what are these things? We haven't seen those yet. Well, this is a little similar to event handlers in jQuery you saw in JavaScript. This is an event handler. It says, dear application, if you receive a GET request to a URL that looks like this, then call this anonymous function to handle it. So you guys remember onClick in jQuery, right? We just did it a couple days ago, right? It's the same idea, except this one is triggered by a request type GET to a specific URL, right? So this URL is actually kind of interesting. This URL says, well, the URL will be /hello/something. You see, this is a variable part of the URL. We're going to call this one name, right? And then the handler, which is this anonymous function, you see, this function doesn't have a name, right? This just says function, just like in JavaScript. Receives 3 objects, actually 2 objects in an array: object request, object response, and arguments. And then arguments are essentially whatever were the dynamic parts of the URL. So here's the name. I can extract it from the arguments. And then what it's going to do is going to write chunk of text, well, HTML really, that says hello space and concatenate the name. Super simple, right? Well, not quite. Now, guys, this is just an event handler. To actually tell PHP Slim to do anything at all, we must call uprun at the end. This is kind of like teaching dogs a trick, saying, okay, so dear doggy, here is what you do. When I say sit, you do this, right? But then if you actually want this to happen, you have to call uprun once at the end. This uprun must happen, and it must happen as the very last thing of the entire index.php file. Okay. Also, we never close PHP. There's no point, so don't put it there. There's no need. Remember, this is not really a tag. This just switches the interpreter from what? From direct output, right? Like we had previously, right? Direct output. It switches it from direct output to executing PHP. There's no need to close it, right? So don't do that. All right, so after this long introduction, let's actually make use of it. So let's go to localhost. And let's go to directory day for Slim. And if you're seeing this, it works. What do you mean, Gregor? It says page not found. It's not what it says, it's how it says it. I'm not kidding, that's true. Look at this. This is not your 404 page that you know. Look, a 404 page, right? This is a 404 page from Apache, right? This is 404 page from PHP Slim. So if you're seeing this in this font, means congratulations, it worked. Well, small congratulations, but yeah, I mean, it worked. That means it worked. So why is it 404? Well, because the URL we're accessing is not one of those that we taught it to handle. See, we told it to handle hello something, and this is not hello something. Right, so how do we let it handle the URL? Well, it's gonna look weird at first. We'll fix it later. We'll have to actually type up index.php /hello/ and you can put your name in there. There you go. So it looks a little weird, I know. So you have to do /index.php /hello/ and you put a name in here. Okay, let's see who got this working. So let's teach this dog another trick. So we know one trick, hello, let's add another one. Guys, make a copy of it. So copy this underneath. I'm going to say hello name /age. Let's give him 2. Right? Let's give them 2. And what we're gonna do, I'm gonna say, right, we should probably put some HTML in there, right? So let's do hello, args name, you are args age, years old, something like this. Yeah, I should do it. And we should close the paragraph. Okay, let's see how that works. So what you want from this is when you say, let's say Jerry /33, there you go. It's going to say, hello, Jerry, you are 33 years old. Right. So it will extract 2 values from the URL, right, and use them to want to do something with them to display them in this case. Right. So you see, we have one index.php file and we have multiple routes. These are called routes. All the routes, you could say all your pages, but you don't really have pages anymore. Not exactly. Not at this point, not yet. So all your routes are defined here. So there's no hello PHP, hello age PHP, there's no login, register, logout, none of those things. All of that will be defined in this single file. Right? All the routes will be defined in this single file. All right, I'll take questions at this point.
Excuse me, it doesn't work for me.
Fantastic, let's see it. The next thing is we're going to plug in templates, Twig templates. So to do that, we're going to have to do some setup here. So in Slim First here, so again, you can click on index.php to make sure we're not in vendor. And then we're going to create 2 folders, not files, folders. One will be called cache. Please keep it all lowercase, C-A-C-H-E. Make sure you don't make any typos there. And then the second one, not inside, but rather next to it, will be called templates. So you got cache, templates, and vendor next to each other, right? Not inside of each other, next to each other. Cache, templates, and vendor. All right, next, well, we need to teach Twig about, excuse me, not Twig, PHP Slim about Twig. And the way to do that is I'll give you the code here. Let me just check that. We'll need, yeah, we need a big chunk of code. It's always the same chunk. I'll let you copy paste it. Just hold on a second. So we've got, yeah, that should work. That should work. I'll give you that chunk via chat, paste it. Yeah, so you need to put it underneath the new Slim app, this one. So just paste it there. Okay, right under the new Slim app. I'll explain in a moment what it does, but let's just start with it. By the way, how do I know to put it? Well, I read the documentation, I read some tutorials, and that's where I ended up with. I didn't just, make it up right now on the spot. That would be kind of crazy. So what it does, it essentially tells Slim, it does two things actually. One is it tells Slim right here to use Twig to render pages or routes, right, to render them. So it adds a renderer here, extension for rendering, right? That's one thing. And the second thing right here, it configures Twig. It gives it a couple of settings. One, it enables debugging, so that will give us some extra information if there were some problems with the Twig syntax. It will give us extra info. So normally on a production system, that would be false, right? But this is not a production system, so we set it to true. And then the more important ones are those two. It tells it where to find the templates. So what is that, by the way? The DR name of file. Well, file, this underscore underscore file underscore underscore, is a constant, which is a string with the path to the current file. What do I mean? Well, if I'm on Windows, right, then you see this is the path. The C, XAMPP, htdocs, IPD23, day4 slim, index.php would be the file. There would be a string that would be a string that contains that path. And what I'm asking is, please remove the name of the file from the end of it and just give me the directory name. Right. So this whole thing will be, this chunk will essentially be this C, XAMPP, htdocs, IPD23, day04 slim first, and then it adds templates to it. And so what is that? It's a path. It's an absolute path, the full path to templates directory, which I just created, right? And the second one is cache, which is used to speed up the templates, because templates are a separate language and it takes time to translate them from Twig to PHP. So what they do, they translate it once and then they save the translation in the cache. I'll show you how that works in a moment. Well, in a few minutes. Okay, so we need to tell Twig about those two locations. Right. All right, so that's that. We'll see if this works. Okay, and on Unix systems, just a word of warning. So if you're on a Mac or Unix system, the cache directory, you need to give everybody read-write to it. So if you are on a Linux or a Mac, the cache folder needs to be a read-write specifically for the user that's running your web server. So I don't know, depending on the configuration, web server could be running as different users. I don't know which one it is. So the safest thing to do is to just give read-write to everybody. Now, you wouldn't do that on the server, but we won't have this problem there. We won't. Once we upload, it won't be an issue. I am assuming that you are the sole user of your system, because otherwise giving others permission to write anywhere is usually not a good idea for safety reasons. But since you're probably working on your own desktop, cache directory, cache folder must be read-write for everyone, for all the users that you have there and for everyone as well. So for the owning user, owning group, and others. Okay, good. Or permissions, if you prefer, 777 would be fine as well here. Again, we would never do that on a production system, but we're not on a production system. This one, this chunk, I can't talk about it yet. It's too early. I'll keep it there. You'll see it's useful later. But we're not there yet. Okay, let's see if there is anything else. I think we got enough glue. Time to create our first template. So go to templates. So click on templates on the left, and you're going to right click on it. Actually, right, yeah, you could right click, and you're going to create a new file. And let's just do hello.html.twig. It's going to have double extension. That's kind of what it looks like. Hello.html.twig. Okay, and it's going to be really, really simple. We're going to print out some HTML there. So we could say, paragraph. So that's going to be HTML with data being inserted into certain spaces of it. It's kind of like a very fancy printf or sprintf. So we're going to say hello from Twig. Something like that. Then let's put the name in here. So we're going to say name, you see double curly name. You are double curly age, years old, and then close the paragraph. Something like this. I think we're missing an extension for Twig. Let me check that. Do we have a Twig extension or not? We probably don't. Yeah, we should get one. All right, so I had to switch to dark mode to get the syntax highlighting, but I see it. So this one understands that this is HTML, right? But it also understands it's Twig. You see those things? They are essentially like echo or print of a variable. That's all it does. It says in this spot, print out the value of a name, and in this spot, print out the value of age. That's what it does. It's just a placeholder. It's kind of like the percentage %s in sprintf. Okay, all right, save the file. And then, oh yeah, that looks different now. That's way too much colors for me, actually. That's a lot. All right, so let's see. So we were right here. Yeah, let's modify this one. So now instead of doing the response, which just writes out the string, right? We're gonna comment this out. You don't have to delete it. We'll just keep it for later. We can comment this out. And what we'll do instead, we will render a template, okay? And the way to do that is we have to do this view render return, yes, return this view render, and then we have to give it the name of the template. Actually, hold on, render response, and then the name of the template was hello.twig.html.twig rather, right? And then the third parameter is an associative array of key value pairs, where the keys are the names of things. So we had name, right, which will be given value name, and we had age, which will be given value age, and that hopefully will do. Oh yeah, hold on, I have to extract them, don't I? Yes, I do. So actually I have to do args of, okay, let's do this. Name is args of name. Let's do extraction first. Age is args of age. Yeah. Okay, let me test it. We'll see if that works or not. So if I refresh here, it says, there you go, it worked. Hello from Twig, Jerry, you are 33 years old. There you go. Right, so that tells me that the template was actually used properly. So I'll give you a minute to do that. All the URLs we're handling must be defined in index PHP. Now let's talk about those things, because there's a lot of name and age. You see name and age here repeats several different times, and I want to kind of decouple this. So I want to clarify which name and age are which ones. Okay. So for example, here I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to say name X and age X. So if I change those, right, then the args content changes. You see those, right? So the args, the third parameter here, takes on the values of whatever is here in the URL. So name X, age X, right? That's what's going to be. Now this is a local variable, so nothing fancy here. Now those, well, that's a different story. So now those is what's going to be passed to Twig. So let's do, I'm going to do this. For example, if I did this name ZZZ, age ZZZ, right? What would I have to change? Well, I need to change those. Why? You see, here's the thing. In Twig, the variables that you have in PHP are not visible. See, yes, I have name, I have age over here, and some other variables possibly. They are not visible inside of the Twig. The only values that are visible, that are carried from PHP to Twig, are those keys and values that you put here as the third parameter. You see, this is what you're passing to the template. It's not automatic. If you want a value from PHP to be rendered in Twig, you must pass it in this associative array. If you don't, it won't be available there. You see, if I don't pass the name, so let's say I'll just skip it there, right? Like this, right? If I skip this and I render my template, see hello from Twig, you see the variables are gone, right? I mean, the values are empty, I should say. Right? I didn't pass name, so this is rendered as an empty string, and I didn't pass the HZZ either, so that's rendered as an empty string. Another thing is this: in Twig, if a variable, if you're trying to access a variable and that variable has never been passed, it's not considered an error. You see, there's no error message here. It's kind of a normal thing. It's okay if you're rendering what you have. Okay, but that's how this works. So I need to pass as the third parameter an associative array with key value pairs of what I want to pass to Twig. That is the only data that the Twig template is going to receive. All right, so let's plug in the next chunk, which is a database. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to File Explorer, go to day 1 first, this one, and find db.php. You can just drag and drop it there. Open it up. You're going to need db.php. This one. And we won't be copying it, not exactly. Well, we'll need that information, right, to connect to our database. So you could open it here, you could open it in, I don't know, Notepad++ or somewhere, it doesn't matter. You just need to have it handy. Okay. Now, to enable connection to the database, we're going to configure it right here. So go up there, go until require once, and underneath require once, you're going to do this. We're going to do db : and we're going to say db name is going to be, well, what was it? DB name was, well, was this one? That was my database name. Right, so paste it here. Now notice there is a $sign over here. What is that? That in PHP is a static field you're accessing. In class DB, there is a static field called DB name. That's what you're accessing. How do I know it's static? Because it uses those 2 columns to access it. Right. Okay, so there's DB name. Then we have DB username or user. Whoop, what happened there? User. And what's the username? Well, it's this. Right, that was my user. Then we have password. So that password, which will be whatever it is. Copy yours. Don't copy mine. Copy yours. Password. And then we have host. Now host is by default local host, but sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. So if you don't specify it, I think it is localhost anyway, but we'll specify it. And for our purposes, because we changed the port to a different one, we'll actually have to specify the port as well, which was 3333 for us. Now, in a regular installation, once we upload that to hosting, you won't have the port anymore because you'll be using the default port, but the rest will be there. Okay, so 5 lines. I'll give you a moment. Let's take a look at that database, just so that we know what we're working with. Let's just do a little refresher. So let's do localhost, and we had phpMyAdmin. Yep, sure. Or you can just go to another way to do that is to go to XAMPP and then just click on admin over here on MySQL. You can do that too to get there. All right, so we're gonna go to day 2, not people, that's not the one, day 2 people. So we had table people in here, right? And that table had 3 fields. If I look at the structure, I had ID, auto increment, primary key integer, right? Name, varchar, and age integer, which is fairly similar to what we are receiving here in the URL. See here, I get name and age, don't I? Yeah. So what I will try and do is in here, I will try and insert a record every time the URL is accessed. Okay, just as an exercise. Okay, so let's see if there's anything else here. I think we're good. I think we're okay here. So let's do that. So how do we do this? We're going to call DB. So let's actually do that. DB colon insert. Okay, now the parameters to it, well, that's a different story. Let's take a look at those. So we're going to go to micro.com. That's the documentation. There's a quick start over here. They actually tell us how to insert. So the way insert works is that you have to give it two parameters. The first parameter is the name of the table. Okay, no problem there. The name of the table is people. And the second parameter is what? Is an associative array. Look at this. That's an associative array, key value pairs, where the keys are the names of columns in the database table, and the values are, well, the values you're inserting. Right? Now we're not inserting ID, so we can skip this one, but we're inserting name, which will have value name, and we're inserting age, which will have value age. There you go. That's pretty much it. This should do it. Okay, so save this. So add this one line in there, save this, and then when you access this, so I got Jerry 33, right? Let's just do something else. So I got Norman, let's say 53, right? Enter. All right, so it says hello from Twig, Norman, you are 33 years old. Okay, that's nice. But if I go to my database, see, Norman was added right here, right? You see, I just added that record over here. Okay, that's the way this should work. So I'll give you guys a minute. Let's do a form, because we know in the web application, there is lots of forms always. So we're going to do, let's do a form add person. So to do that, let's just borrow, let's borrow, I suppose, this, right? And then we'll just change things here. So we'll have the URL will be add person, right? And then what we'll do is we will just render a template, because this is gonna be our state 1 first display of the form. Right, so the form will be, let's just say add person.html.twig, and that should pretty much do it. Okay, that's the first display. And then when we receive the information, we're going to receive it via post. So we're going to have another handler here for method post, same URL. Right, so that's when we're going to do verification and so on. So we don't have that one yet, but we'll get there. Okay, right, I'll give you a moment. So this one is incomplete. The second one, this is very complete for now. All right, so in the templates, you can right click here, create a new file, and we're going to go with add person.html.twig, of course, new template. And let's see. So we want to display the form. Let's just do the form display first. So we're going to do form. Method is, of course, post, right? Uppercase, lowercase, doesn't matter. And then we'll do name is input, type is text, right? Name is name, and that's it. We don't have a value here yet. Yeah, we don't have that yet. So we'll just close it off. We are age, right? Same thing, input type, number is okay, name is age, and then we do BR again, and finally the submit button. So we'll do input type submit with value comes to add person. That's it. So very basic form. So the way to know if it's working, at least the get part, right? This one. You see, when I access add person, it should essentially render the twig, right? So we'll see if that works. We'll see if that works. So if I go here, I'll say index.php add person. I know those URLs look weird. I know, we'll fix it. But that's what you should get. You should just get /add person. Right. All right, let's continue here. I'm just going to pull it back up. There we go. So now for the handler, so now the most of the work is actually with handling the submission, right? Now, in this case, the args is not useful because you see args is only used for the arguments that show up on the URL. They are part of the URL. When we submit using post, because that's what we're doing here, right? We said that the method is post, right? We don't have anything in the args usually, except, well, maybe if there's something, well, if the URL looks like this, right? So args only contains the variable parts of the URL. Since we don't have any variable parts here, the args is not useful for us. So what we need to do, we need to extract the name and age from the requests. Now I know I am receiving requests. How do I know that? Because this is post handler, right? So the request get param. Yeah, unfortunately, the suggestions by, actually, hold on a second. Maybe we could improve this. So get param, and then we tell it what we want. So we said get param, what will be submitted here? Well, there are two values here. One is name and one is age, right? These are the two values being submitted. So we're going to extract it. We'll say, give me a name, right? And then give me an age. Yeah, you know what? I'll just remove this then. So we extract name and age, and then we'll do the same thing pretty much as we did previously. We're going to collect errors information. So we'll do, you know, error list is an empty array, right? And then we'll do at the end, we'll check if we got any errors or not. So we'll do, you know, the usual if error list. If there are errors, then do something else, do something else, right? So kind of like this. Okay, let's see that. So now verification validation. As I said, the same thing as before. So let's do if strlen of name. Hold on, type. So if the string length of name is less than, what do we say, 2, or the string length of name is greater than, what was the length of the field? 20, 50. We have to check the database here. What was the definition here? Was name was 50. All right, so we're greater than 50, right? That's a problem. So we'll say error list append to it, and we'll say name must be 2 to 50 characters long, right? Like we did before. And let's do the same thing with age. So if age is less than, actually, hold on, there's a couple things here. We have to make sure that age is actually an integer. Right, we could actually borrow the same method we used previously. Yeah, so that's what it was, right? If filter var, we can just borrow it from here, actually. You know, that's actually not a bad idea at all. Yeah, let's just borrow this instead of retyping. If filter var age, what's the problem? That's fine, that should be okay. Save. Okay, there we go. I just need to save that. Yeah. Okay, so this is actually I could have borrowed both of them. See, this one is the same, really, right? Verified inputs. So now that I have the list of possible problems, I will want to, well, there's two possibilities. If there were issues, so if there were issues, what I want to do, I want to redisplay the form. So what we're going to do, we're going to move this up here into the error list. Now, please make sure you do not leave it there, because that would be dead code. And then if there was, so this is what, errors. So show errors. So this is what was state 2 errors. redisplay. Right, otherwise, success. So I will state 3. Success. In which case, we will render a different template. We're going to call it add person success, Kapla. Right, and that was Klingon for success apparently. And then we'll do DB insert here, right? We'll do DB insert into people, of course, just the same thing we actually did here. Actually, I can just copy this. There we go. Right, so we'll do an insert, and that's almost all we need to do here. Okay. All right, guys, we're at the lunch break, actually. So what we're missing here, there's a few things here. One is when we are, let's talk about this one first. So when we are submitting here and we submitted correctly, means there was no errors. We want to render a different template, not the same template. You see, nobody says that one URL means one template. You can have one URL that actually utilizes multiple templates. That's not a problem at different times, not at the same time, but it chooses which template to render. And that's what we're doing here. So we're going to create a new template here. So right click on templates, do new file, and we'll do add person underscore success $C S, right? Success is written with $C S .html.twig. There you go, right? And in here, I'm thinking let's keep it really simple. We'll just say something like, let's see, let's just say person added successfully, something like that, right? Let's just do this here, paragraph person added successfully, and that's it for now. Right, so fairly simple template, right? We're not rendering any variables, just piece of HTML. All right, so that's that. And then let's talk about this one, the add person HTML twig. So in the first show, which we've got right here, we just render it, we display it, it shows the form, all is nice, yeah, happy with it, this is good. But when we submit and things don't work out, we end up here and we want to, well, redisplay the form, but we also want to do 2 more things. One is we want to display the errors, right? So we have a list of errors we want to show. So we should do that. The way to do that is we need to pass the errors to the template, and then we need to render them in the template. So in here, we're going to add an array. We're going to have error list, right? Just like we have the variable error list, which will contain the value of, well, guess what, error list. Let's do this one first. Okay, so please add it there. I'll give you a moment. Once we pass the error list to the template over here, we need to utilize it. And the way we do that, we need to do a for each loop. Essentially, that's what it is, right? And the way for each loop looks like in Twig, there's actually, I added that to your homework for today. There are actually links here. There's a for loop right here. It's actually, they say it's a for loop. It's more of a for each loop, really. It looks like this. Open curly percentage, then you write your for loop, close it, then you have the body of the loop, and then you have end for. That's what it is. Yeah. So let's do that one. Just gonna, yeah, I can borrow that, I suppose. Yeah. All right, so we have for what? For error in error list, right? And for. And what am I going to display? I'm going to display a list item, that's true actually, which is, well, the error really. That's what it is, right? Now this is a list item, so that means I need a UL, right? Open and close. Okay, so please put it there and test it, see if it works. Meaning what? Once you submit the form and there are some problems with it, then you should see 1 or 2 error messages there. All right, so let's refresh this. All right, so actually now let's just actually go again, right? So that's a get. If I just press add person, there you go. Here are my errors. Not terrible, right? Now there's a little issue here we have to fix. Look, if I look at the, now I inspect, let's do the source code. If I look at the source code of this, this is weird. See that? It shouldn't really be there because it's an empty list. I mean, if I don't have, excuse me, if I don't have any errors to show, then don't show them and don't show the list, right? So because of that, I also should have an if around the whole thing that tells me, should I even display the ULs or not? So let's fix it. Let's do, we'll do an if. So if there is error list, meaning what? If error list is defined and is not empty, then let's fix the indentation here. Then print out UL, do the for each loop over the errors, display them, and close UL. And then let's close the and if. There you go. So once I do that, you see, I just refreshed it, right? Now the open close UL doesn't show anymore. That's usually how we want to do that, right? Usually you don't show ULs without items in them. Okay, so I'll give you a moment to do that. Now, the next thing is, so this is nice. And when I submit, let's actually test the submission. So if I do put something that makes sense, add person, there you go, person added successful. You see, this is the success template render. You see the URL is still the same. We're not changing the URL, but I rendered this template instead, right? And that's where I saw person added successfully. Now, I'm not crazy about the HTML. You see, this is not complete HTML, right? Where's the HTML page? Where is the headers, right? There's lots of stuff missing here. This is just kind of the main part of the page. The whole rest is missing for now. We're actually going to add that, but not yet. Okay. So that actually worked out well. Now, what else is missing? Well, the problem is if one of them is invalid, so let's say here I have this, right? And I say add person, right? See, the name disappeared on me, right? So I did a submission, age was invalid, that's true, but name disappears. I don't like that, right? We know that in 21st century, when you submit a form and there's a problem, you shouldn't be asked to re-enter everything. That would be super annoying. It's like, what is it, 1990s again, right? So we have to follow the best practices. So we'll do exactly the same thing we did before. We'll collect the name and age. We'll put it into a separate, let me just see how we would do that. There's a few ways to do that. Let's just do this. Let's add here values list, and let's create name is name, age is age, right? And then, so that's the values, right? And then we'll pass it as another parameter. Let's call it V for short. Short from values, not vampires. That's different. Values list, right? We're going to pass V values list. And one more thing, if something is wrong, I'll set it to empty. Yeah, I think in this case it's appropriate to do so. Not always, but in this case it's okay. So I'll say, listen, if name or age are coming in, they're empty, then excuse me, they are wrong, then I will set them to empty, right? So I'll do the same thing as I did before. Okay, so I'll give you a minute to do that as well. So I changed line 63, 67, and I added this and that at the end. Right. So let's see. So now what do we do with the V, with the values? Well, we'll need to put them into the template, into the form. So here we'll do value equals, and then in here, curlies, double curlies, and we'll do V dot name, which is what? So V is the name of the variable passed. That's an associative array that I passed. And then I'm not doing, because here I had an array too, but I was doing a for loop over each of the items. I don't want to do that here. I want to access the element name of it. By the way, guys, when you're doing that, please don't put spaces around here outside of the curlies. Why? Because that space will be added to the value there, right? We don't want that. That would end up being part of the HTML. You can put spaces in here or not. That's up to you. It's just a matter of taste. I usually put them just, it looks better, but it's not required. Right, we'll do the same thing here. So for age, value is curly, 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 VH. And that's it. So go ahead and test it. Let's just see what it should do. Hopefully it will. Let's start again. All right, so if I do odd person, that's okay. So if I say Jerry, age too high, right? Jerry should stay. There you go. See, Jerry stays, right? If I do X, that's too short, right? And the age is okay, actually. There you go. See, X disappeared, but 12 stayed because it's okay. Okay, so that's the behavior we want. The same one we know from one of the previous part of the course. So twig inheritance. So inheritance is a very big word for what this offers, but that's what they call it. They call it inheritance. That's okay. We're going to call it inheritance. The way this works is that you can actually create a template, kind of like a master template. You can have actually more than one. You can have multiple master templates. Think about it this way. If you take a website, your website will usually have more or less the same, you know, the heading, some logo, title, menus, right? Maybe some menu on the left. And then in the middle, there's going to be the content. The content will change. Are you, let's say if you have a blog, are you viewing the list of articles? Are you viewing a specific article? Are you adding an article, right? But there's usually kind of a general schema to the layout, right? So that would usually constitute the master template. And you could have more than one master template if you need to. Let's say if you have more than one general layout that you're using, you can totally do that too, right? But yeah, a master template is something that we really want to use. Why? Well, because otherwise, you see, those nice templates that we have right now here, you see, this is a very concise template that only shows where it needs to, right? If I add all the other things that I need to have on the web page, right? There's going to be probably another 100 lines in a real website, right? That I need to add at the beginning, at the end, right? So it's going to clutter that. And what's worse, I would have to copy paste it into every template I have. So if I have hello, I will have to copy paste, those chunks too, right? If I have add person or add success, right? I would have to have a copy of all those lines in each of them. So if I want to make a change, I would have to go and change it everywhere. That's a terrible thing. So what we're going to do instead, we're going to create a master template. So right click on templates and let's just call it master HTML twig. Master HTML twig. And as I said, we're going to start with one, but in your projects, you could have more than one. And there's actually a nice example I think we have in here. There we go, this one. By the way, this file is already in your OneDrive, day 05 homework. It's already there. Let's actually open this up. So your job will be to read those, right? If I didn't make it clear, this is required reading. Okay, all right. So let's do extents. Right. So the way this works is that we will define a master template, which we'll actually just going to copy from here. And then the child templates will be able to say, I extend that master template. They call it base in this case. Right. I extend the master template. And then what they do is they just say, well, I will have a different title. I will add some extra stuff in the head. And the main content of the page will be this. So it keeps the template, the specific template is very short and concise, and they only focus on the things that are important for that particular page, that are different for that particular page. And everything that is repeated on every page will be part of the master template. Okay, so I'm going to ask you here, so just go ahead and copy this. I should give you the URL. All right, I just pasted that in the chat. So copy this whole thing, and paste it in your master HTML twig. We'll have to make some modifications here. We also should add styles, which we don't have yet, but we will in a moment. All right. So a couple of things here. We need to modify a few things. One is styles, because our file is called styles with an S. The title, we'll keep it as is. Content, let me check. We may have to adjust a few things here. Hold on. So the content is, for us, we actually have a slightly different setup there. We have centered content. So let's change it, centered, because this has to play together with the CSS we'll add. So we'll have centered content ID, and the footer will keep as is. We're not touching the footer. So essentially what's going to happen is that most of the web page content will be here, will end up in here, in the block content. Blocks are kind of like placeholders where we will put what's different about that page. We will put content of the page into the blocks. Okay, so guys, we've made a couple changes here. We added S for styles CSS. Please don't put a slash in front. No, it won't work. It will break it. Don't do that. We will do that actually later, but it's too early for it. And then centered content. Lowercase c, uppercase c. All right, let's keep it exact. Okay. All right. Now go and find your day first and copy styles CSS from here to Slim first and just put it there. Right there, styles CSS. Just make a copy of it. Okay. It will show up right there. See, so we got body center content error message. Yeah, they're right there. Okay, so just copy it from day 1 or day 2. It's the same thing. I think we didn't make any modifications there. So we'll just use the same basic CSS. And you guys have to do better, as I said, on your projects. Right? You're probably going to use Bootstrap or something like that. Okay, good. So now let's use those master templates. So we have the add person. Let's start with this one. Why not? So we have the add person implementation here. So we'll, first of all, on top there, we'll say extends. So we'll say percentage, curly percentage, extends. Oh, how nice. I just have to fix that up, but yeah. And it extends master.html.twig. It has to be the full name. Don't forget the .twig at the end, right? So once you do that, you can no longer just generate content. You see this content, if right now, if I try to access add person, let me show you what happens. If I try accessing add person, I'll get an error saying, and guys, you have to get into a habit when I'm not here, especially, right, after outside of the class, you actually have to read the messages. So this one says, this template extends another one. And because of that, it cannot include content outside of blocks. What does it mean? Well, that means that we need to put this in one or more blocks. Okay, so which block will it be? Well, that's an easy answer because the block is content. You see this one? The name of the block, the main block that we are interested in, putting content into is called content. That's what we call it. So we'll say block content, and then we have to close it as well. So we'll say end block, and optionally, you can also give it, you can repeat the name when you're closing it. It's not required, but it kind of makes reading of the code easier because okay, I opened the block here and I'm closing it there, right? Okay, so block content. Let's save this and let's try this again. So if I go to my application, there you go. Look what happened. So there are still some issues there. It didn't center, but I definitely got the master template. Look, if I look at the page source, I got doc type, HTML, header. Oh yeah, right. Hold on, we have to fix the styles. That's in a moment. It's gonna be a drag. Right. So we've got the styles here, which isn't working yet properly. We'll fix it, right? But the rest is there. Look, I got the footer, right? And then this is the centered content, right? That's the main body really of my page, right? And if I submit and there are errors, right? And I do view page source, look at this. I got these are my errors. This is the form being redisplayed. It's all there, right? Exactly as it should be. Okay. All right. So let's see who's got this working. So we got the template, the master template working. We should use it for other pages as well. We have to. So how do we do that? Well, just copy this chunk, the first 2 lines or so, the extends and block content, copy those 2. And you want to put it into, well, into hello, of course, why not? And then you have to add the closing one. So you have to do, you know, end block, content, for example, right, like this, right? Then we had add person success. Yep, definitely. Right, so we'll do the same thing. And block. Right, and then we had, I think that was it. We only had 3 templates there. That's all we have, yeah. So all the templates need to be using the master template now. Let's just check that it works. So if I go here and I right here, yeah, let's do that, add person. So if I do Maria 45, add person, there you go, add person added successfully, you see, and it's using, right, it's using the template, the master template, because I got the copyright. We need to get rid of this ugliness over here, actually all of this. You see this whole thing, this looks terrible. It should be something like day 4 slim first dot local / add person, something like this, right? That's the kind of URL we would like to have. And we're actually going to do that in just a moment. Well, more than a moment, but we're going to start doing it. So this is, again, a little bit of system administration here we're going to have to do. But we've done that before. It works pretty well. Guys, I need you to, the first thing is not really tricky exactly. I think I had a photo of it. Let me just double check here. In PHP. Oh, maybe I don't, just hold on a sec. Okay, so step number 1, you need to start Notepad, but it must be run as administrator. And I'll save this file actually. So you're gonna do file open, right? And then you're gonna go to C, Windows. Yep, Windows. So we're going deep into territories that we've never been before, I think. C, Windows, System 32, drivers, etc. All right, I'm going to give you the path in the chat so you know what it is, right? C, Windows, System 32, drivers, etc. Okay. All right, you're going to see it looks like there are no files in there. Well, there are no files with extension txt, and please do not create any new files in here. What you want to do, you want to click on the right-hand side and select all files right there. Oh, by the way, on Unix systems, I'll walk you through that in a moment. Okay, let's just do this here first. Okay, so all files. Okay, you're going to see that there is actually a bunch of them. You need to open the one called hosts. Okay. All right. So now on Unix systems, let's. So I'm going to open this. So on Unix systems, right? What you need to do is you need to open file called etc hosts, and put the same thing. We're going to add just like one line in there. But the trick is to edit etc hosts. You must do the editing as an administrator. So I don't know how you're going to do that. It depends on the platform. On Linux, it's easy. You just do sudo and so on. And I would personally use VI or Nano. If you know Nano, it's okay too, or any other editor on the command line to edit it. In a graphical environment, I'm not sure how you're going to do that, but you need to be able to edit etc hosts and add one line to it. I'm going to show you what the line is. Okay, and the line is, so now at the end here, you're going to add a few empty lines. Right, so you're not on the last line, but rather one of the previous ones. And you're going to type 127.0.0.1 with dots. That's an IP address that is called loopback. It always points back to the computer itself. This file, what it does, it takes precedence over DNS entries. You guys know a little bit about DNS. One of the things it does, one of the main things it does, it's not the only one, it translates names into IP addresses. So when you type google.com, computer doesn't connect to google.com, but rather has to translate google.com into an IP address, and then it connects to that IP address, which is google.com's server. So this file hosts takes precedence over DNS. If there is an entry for a specific name in this file, DNS is not queried. So it's kind of like an override, right? It takes precedence. So we're going to create a few kind of fake DNS entries in here. And let's start with, we're going to need day04 slim blog slim. What do we have first? And we have to give it some extension, some top level domain, just like there's .com, .org, and so on. We're going to call it .local. Okay. And then, so that's one. You can put spaces in between here. You can put a tab. The number of spaces doesn't matter. And then since you guys are going to have a homework to do, we might as well do it. Day04, quiz 1. No, actually, no, we're going to call it, because your homework will be to re-implement quiz using this. So it shouldn't take longer than 24 hours, right? Straight. Right. Day 4, don't say I didn't warn you. Day 4, what did we do? That was slim auctions. .local. Okay. So these two, because we'll need it. We're not adding the www in front. It's not useful for us. There's no need. We're just gonna, we could do the www in front, but there is no advantage to doing so. So we're just going to keep it this way. Okay. Make sure that there is at least one empty line afterwards. Could be more, but there needs to be at least one empty line. Sometimes it's problematic when there isn't any. Okay. So I can paste it into the chat window. Why not? This is what you guys need, right? Those names, I just made them up. They can be anything you like, right? If you want something shorter, that's okay. You can just do slim first. I'm okay with that, but you just have to be consistent, because in a moment we'll be modifying configuration of our web server with those names. So you need to know what those names are. Okay, I don't care what they are, but you need to know what they are. Okay, save the file and close Notepad. So you can do file, save, close, you're good, you're done here. All right, so now, so that's one step. So now we taught our computer that those names will point to the computer itself, right? It's not going to query the DNS on the internet, because we didn't buy that domain, right? We'd actually pay for it. We'll do that Friday or Monday, one of those 2 days. We'll actually do the hosting, probably Monday. But for now, we'll use this. So the next thing is we need to configure our Apache. So let's go here to XAMPP. And in Apache, click on config apache httpd.com, this one, the first one. So, you know, in the world of web servers, actually, let's just open this up first. In the world of web servers, there is something called a virtual host, and it has nothing to do with virtual machines. That's a different story completely. Virtual host, what it means is that a single physical machine, which has one IP address, can actually handle multiple websites. Or think about it this way. If you ever bought web hosting, maybe you already have, maybe you haven't, but if you did buy web hosting, you're paying for it, you know, a few dollars a month, usually. It's like $5 a month or something like that, right? And what's going to happen is that you're paying $5, but you're not, it's not like you're renting out the whole server in the sense that it's the whole physical machine. You're renting out what? A little bit of its performance, right? So that you can host your little website. In other words, this server hosts probably another 10,000 websites aside from yours. It has a single IP address, 10,000 websites. So now the question is, how does it know when somebody connects to it, to port 80 or 443, because these are the two ports that are used by HTTP protocol, right? 80 and 443. When it gets connected to by a client, how does it know which site to serve? Because it has 10,000 of them, right? It knows because the web browser will tell it which name was used in here in the URL to access the site. So it says, listen, I'm connecting to your port, let's say 443, and I know you're serving probably plenty of websites, but I want to access, let's say, google.com, or I want to access mcgill.ca, or I want to access johnrobertscollege.qc.ca, right? It will tell it which website. And then the web server in its configuration has a list of websites that it knows of. Those are called virtual hosts. And what they do, it matches the name that the web browser sent it with a directory in which the website files are located. So it says, okay, if somebody wants to access this name, I serve files from this folder. If somebody accesses a different name, I serve the files from a different folder, right? So if I have 10,000 websites, I'll probably gonna have 10,000 folders, one for each website, right? And that is actually exactly what we're gonna do. We're going to teach Apache to handle those two names and serve different content for each of them, okay? So now, what I want you to do is scroll all the way down. Actually, no, hold on, back up. We're gonna do, go to the listen here, 8888, that line, right? And you're going to add, I'm just thinking because that may actually get us into trouble, guys. You know what? We're gonna skip this one, because I don't want to cause any problems here. Scroll all the way down to the end of the file. Let's do it this way, all the way down till the end of the file, all the way down. So on Unix systems, what you want to put in here is the full path to the directory with SlimFirst. So we're talking this. Right, and on Windows, here's what I want you to do. It's the same thing, really. Go to czamp htdocs ipd23 SlimFirst. Go into that directory. You're going to see this is your project, right? Copy the location. So you click on the address bar, you copy this, and you paste it in between those double quotes. In between, right? So there's double quote at the beginning, a double quote at the end. On Unix systems, you do the same thing, except the path will be different. So whatever the path is, you put it there. And it's just Artem, I think you're running with a virtual machine. This may be slightly different for you. It probably will be the path only within the virtual machine, not the full path for the operating system, but only within the virtual machine. So you're probably going to skip the application and so on until the
And where can I find the configuration file?
the http.conf.
Yeah.
I don't know. That depends on. So you're using XAMPP or something else? We can't hear you.
Yes.
XAMPP. Well, then there should be a control panel there. Just so hold on. I'm gonna finish this here and then I'll get back to you. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So save this. Right. So now, okay. So one more thing here. We need to change the backslashes to slashes. It won't work otherwise. So all I'm gonna do is I will change the backslash to slash. Right. So I'll end up with something like this. So C:/ XAMPP / htdocs / and slash. Okay, save it and close. Save and close. Okay, now stop Apache, start it again. Okay, it should start. Okay, if it doesn't start, you go to config again and you fix any typos you have. If there is a mistake here, if it doesn't start, and previously it did, that means that you made a mistake here somewhere. Something's not right. Okay, so you gotta go and fix it. Now, if it starts fine, then what you do, you open your web browser and you type exactly the name of this fake DNS entry we just created. So it's going to be day4 SlimFirst local. Oh, okay. So we're going to have to add. We have to add HTTP in front, and we have to do. Oh yeah, and colon 88888. There we go. All right. So I'm going to copy this into the chat window so you have it. This should be pretty much the same for everybody. Yeah, we could get rid of the port as well, but there is no need. Okay, if you're seeing what I'm seeing, means it worked. Right, which is the page.found, but this is the slim, right? Again, this is different font. This is the PHP slim page not found. And if I did, let's say /index PHP /hello Jerry, you see, it actually is going to do that work as well. Now, again, we still need to get rid of the index, but we're almost there. Okay, so now I'm just gonna ask, how far are you with this? We got the virtual host, right? Now we need to do one more thing, which we need to get rid of this ugly index there. We don't really want to be typing index here every time. That's annoying. The port number, we'll keep it. It doesn't harm anybody, and it will go away once we upload. Once we upload this to the hosting. So here's what I want you to do. Go to your project and then create a new file. And the file, not in templates, but rather in here. Yeah, let's do new. In the main directory, it has to be the main directory of your project, not inside of cache, templates, or vendor. It has to be main directory of your project. Right, and the name of the file is special. It's .ht access, and you must type it exactly, CCS. If you make a typo, if you give it a different name, it will not work at all. It is a special name, .ht access, all lowercase, CCS. Okay, and the contents of it, I'm going to give you the contents. I'll paste it in the chat window, actually. Is going to look like this. Okay, let's just paste it. There we go. So essentially what it says, Dear Apache, no matter which URL is being accessed, I don't care, give that URL to index.php. That's it. That's all. Well, there's one more thing here, but we're not concerned with that. So it says, listen, actually, it says either I'm accessing a file such as, let's say, styles CSS, in which case let it be accessed, or if it's anything else than accessing a file that actually exists physically on the in that directory, give that request to index.php. Okay, save it. And now something interesting will happen. So here, try this. Hello slash somebody. There you go. You see, no more index. All right, better, a little better. Let's try. We did the add person. You guys remember add person? Look at that. We actually got CSS working. Woohoo. See, you should get the background. You should get the centering finally, right? And even if I put, something wrong here. Oh yeah, I didn't actually give it a style for the arrows. Yeah, I didn't use this one. I should have. Okay, but the CSS is working. Now there's still some HTML issues I should fix, like the footer isn't showing where it should be, right? Isn't center, but that's something we can fix later. Okay, let me see who got this working so far. I'll just launch the poll. Let's set you up for the homework. So the homework is interesting. Sure. So the homework is to re-implement quiz 1 using PHP Slim, Twig, MicroDB, all the good stuff that we just learned about today. Well, we learned is a big word. We started to learn about, right? But that is actually a pretty nice exercise, right? So the URLs will be different, right? So you're going to have, let's just look at this. We had, all right, so let's just go over this again. So we say that we want to have index.php, .htaccess, composer.json, and lock, style, CSS, and directories, cache, templates, and vendor, and you will be handling those 4 URLs. You will not have multiple PHP files. The only PHP file you're going to have is the index.php, which will be handling all the other URLs. Right, so now let's recreate it together, right, to make sure that you guys are not stuck with this. So start a new Visual Studio Code. So keep this one running. Let's open a new VS Code. So you can right click on the taskbar and just start a new one, and then do File, Open Folder. C, XAMPP, htdocs, IPD23, and you're going to create a new folder, day 04, what do we call it? Slim Auctions. Slim Auctions. Careful with the typos there. Slim Auctions. Okay, select folder. There we go. So now you got 2 of them. Right, you got 2 Visual Studios side by side. All right, so now let's see if I can do that. Let's create the folders we need. So we need cache. It doesn't. Cache. Then templates. Now, please make sure you do not create them inside of each other. They have to be on the same level. So just be careful. You may have to click here in this area to create it correctly. Do not create vendor. Vendor will be created automatically in a moment. Okay, so create cache and templates. On Unix systems, you have to give cache correct permissions so that everybody can write to them. You're gonna have to correct that now or later. Okay, then from this one, copy. We're gonna copy those files: htaccess, composer, JSON, index, PHP, and style, CSS. Copy those. We're gonna skip the lock. Okay, so you can right click, copy, go back up here, right click, paste. There we go, they're there. Go to terminal and open the new terminal, right? So you should be in that directory, in that folder, day04, hold on, wrong one, hold on, I'm in the wrong project, I think. Slim auctions, there we go, yeah. Yeah, be careful, I just went to the wrong one. So terminal, new terminal, make sure I am in day4 Slim auctions, right? That's where it should open. And we'll do composer install, that's it. Press enter. Composer space install, press enter. What this will do, it will read composer JSON and download and install all the libraries that we want to use. 30 seconds tops usually. There you go. So there should be no errors, hopefully, right? During this process, there should be nothing in red that would indicate a problem. Vendor directory should be created, right? You should have it. And right, so you guys don't have to, at some point, implementing the solution by what? Changing the database, right? So you should create a new database, same one, or I mean, you could use, I suppose you could use the same database you did in the quiz. If you still have it on your computer, you could just reuse it. I don't mind. Or you can create a new one. I don't care, whichever you prefer. You can make a copy of it. Oh, there you go. Right? In PHPMyAdmin, you can just duplicate the database under a new name. Anyway, so you don't have to, change this. The rest, though, the whole setup over here, this whole thing stays the same, right? And your primary job will be what? To implement these URL handlers, right? So those, I mean, you could decide to just delete them. That's okay, right? Actually, let's do that. Let's go. So we have define up routes below. Now people make a mistake here, very bad one. They delete the last line. You see, the up run must be there. So people make a mistake. They delete the up run and then they wonder why it doesn't work. It's kind of like buying a car and never driving it again, right? Yeah, you have to have the up run at the end. So in here, you're gonna, create the handlers for URLs, get, post, whatever you're doing, right? The rest stays the same. Yeah, don't worry about the globals yet. This is we're gonna discuss it later. Okay, any questions so far? Any questions so far? Okay, we're almost there. Now we need to teach Apache about that domain name. Now, guys, when you were editing your hosts file, you created two entries there. I mean, there was one line with two entries, right? So we're going to use the other entry for this project. So go again to your Apache configuration, right? Config, http://conf, right? And then duplicate those 4 lines. So just make a copy of it, whatever they are, they're okay. If you got one working, the other one will be almost identical. And the only difference is, there's 2 differences. One is the server name. This has to be exactly as the domain you put in the host file, right? So I had Slim auctions. You may want to copy it from there, or just make sure you don't make a typo. And then the document root also will be changed, so Slim auctions. And that should be it. You have to stop and start Apache or restart it, right? Save the file, make sure you save the file. Then you stop Apache, start it again. If it doesn't start, means that there's a typo here that you made, you need to fix it. Okay, so once you did that, you go to the web browser and let's just open Slim auctions.local. There you go. Beautiful. I get the page not found, which tells me PHP Slim is working. Right, this is fine. Okay, all right. Any questions at this point?